Well, now it's time for lefties losing it. And a big thank you, America. You got rid of Rosie O'Donnell. And guess where she's coming next? She's coming here, right here, to Australia to grace us with her presence, bringing her comedy show Down Under, allegedly. And how is this for a sell? She's told an Aussie newspaper all about her sad, acute and chronic case of Trump derangement syndrome, saying my escaping was self-preservation. It wasn't only a fear of him, it was a fear of what I knew it would do to me, to watch my country be pulled apart by a mentally ill man who only serves himself. Wow, Rosie, really selling your show there. Well, roll up, roll up. Where can I get a ticket? And if the TDS didn't get you over the line, this will. Please pay attention, everyone.
Black out the system. Black out the system.
Rosie, do us a favour and black us out of your tour. Stay Island, please. We are begging you, please. Now, this next clip comes with a trigger warning. Singer Lizzo has been triggered yet again by Sydney's ad for American Eagle.
No kizzy, ain't got no business being with me. Fat ass, pretty face with the titties. Bitch, I got good jeans like I'm Sydney.
And don't say I didn't warn you. I gave you a trigger warning, and that is way too much of Lizzo's rear end for any of us to handle. Meanwhile, the always pleasant Australian influencer Abby Chatfield is having another meltdown of bombastic proportions.
And I saw a comment saying, well, if it was any other skin tone or eye colour, it'd be okay. Yes, that's what a dog whistle is. Yes, you're understanding it. See, the issue with these MAGA supporters is I go, yeah, you're almost there. You're so close to being there. Yes, if it was someone with any other skin tone or possibly eye colour, it would be less scary and less of a dog whistle. Because the reason why it's a dog whistle is because contextually we have back to 1930s and 40s Germany.
Abby, love, it's really not that deep, okay? You're almost there yourself. It's an ad for jeans. Please, let it rest, let it go. And now from one Delulu to another, talk show host Jimmy Kimmel, bringing with some sort of holier-than-thou complex, has claimed, with a straight face, that repulsive voices on the left are driving people away from the Democratic Party.
It's the loud voices that scare people from saying what they believe and make you think twice about a joke or whatever, these things. And, a lot of their points are valid, but a lot of them are also just repulsive. And I mean, they repel people from, they go like, oh, you're no fun. I don't want to be around you. And I think that if you had to boil it down to like one thing, that's kind of what it is.
Well, look, he's not wrong, is he? But this is just incredible. A stunning turnaround, stunning turn in events, especially given that this was Kimmel on the day Trump was re-elected.
Let's be honest, it was a terrible night last night. It was a terrible night for women, for children, for the hundreds of thousands of hardworking immigrants who make this country go, for healthcare, for our climate, for science, for journalism, for justice, for free speech. It was a terrible night for poor people, for the middle class, for seniors who rely on Social Security, for our allies in Ukraine, for NATO, for the truth.
I mean, the man was practically bawling his eyes out. But here was a real perler. Jimmy Kimmel and Sarah Silverman then decided to go together in a little kumbaya TDS session and said that Dems are elitist.
I'm on the left. It was for, but like, I find in general, the party that is about inclusivity is incredibly elitist. Just say, join us. Yes, come, join us. Yes.
Again, not wrong, but two multimillionaire woke lefties dishing out on the elite. The irony. Now, why can't the left laugh and take a joke? Like, are they okay? They're just so serious all the time. It's very, very sad, very tragic. Donald Trump Jr. posted this meme of his father tossing a sex toy from the White House roof onto a WNBA court. It's a joke. It's a meme. Yet right on cue, CNN went into obliteration mode.
Donald Trump Jr. posted to Instagram Did you see this with with the president? I mean, obviously it's mean, but it's the president throwing one off the White House roof there onto the WNBA.
Yeah. Well, that says everything we need to know about Donald Trump Jr. What is he, in his 50s? What is he?
Donald Trump posted that? Donald Trump Jr.
Yeah. Yeah. 52, whatever, how old he is.
No comment. Toddlerman, is that the word?
Well,
you use?
yes,
memes that came from President Trump going on the roof.
I mean, their faces. One would think someone has died, for goodness sake, prompting this response from Donald Trump Jr. saying, what is it about memes that always triggers these losers at CNN so badly? Now, here is one way to ensure you are unemployable after graduating. Turn your valedictorian speech into an embarrassing clown show.
Excuse my language, but to that I say ICE and the Trump administration.
So brave, so incredible. And here is how you know Trump's ICE operation is in fact working so well. Illegals are self-deporting.
Well, I've made up my mind. I will be turning in my DACA and returning to Mexico. We came to America January 15th, 1996, so almost 30 years. I was a baby, so I have no memories of Mexico, but I think it's time for me to go back. Now, there is a lot of fears and wonderings and what ifs, but I do not want to be captive to this country anymore.
Okay, child, bye. Meanwhile, the breathtakingly incompetent mayor of LA, Karen Bass, is now claiming ICE arrests are destabilising the city.
That just doesn't destabilize a family. That destabilizes a neighborhood, it destabilizes businesses, it destabilizes a community, but we are not going to allow this administration to destabilize our great city.
No, she's never been a bright spark, that Karen, has she? And now to the sad lives of those suffering with incurable Trump derangement syndrome. Please spare a thought for this snowflake.
Ever since Trump became president, I'm so used to bad news. Yesterday, me and my coworkers were watching the gorgeous sunset, and this one guy goes, you know, next year we're not going to be able to see the sunset. And I literally, automatically, I'm just like, great, the atmosphere is going to combust, and, you know, it's going to be total darkness, and there's going to be no more sunsets. Sunsets have been abolished. But I just go, what? Why won't be able to see the sunset? And he's like, because they're building a building right there. And I'm like, whew, okay.
Well, that's okay, because this Liberal can maybe help her out.
I think that the best way and the only way for me to survive the next 3.5 years is to make sure that my doctor keeps prescribing my clonazepam. Have a nice day.
And gee, it's just so bad out there. This grandma is girding her loins.
You know what? Kamala was right. We all knew she was right. What this regime is doing in Washington just seems like all we can do right now is don't give up, but we have to wait it out. I don't know what else to say. I mean, is everybody going to just go to the streets and fight everybody? That's coming. And you should be scared of that.
Yes, we ride at dawn. Get your nunchucks out, your steel cap boots. Although, Grandma, I couldn't quite hear you with CNN blasting in the background. Could you turn it up a little louder, please? Well, now to the war in Ukraine. US Vice President JD Vance has attended an emergency peace summit with European and Ukrainian leaders ahead of Donald Trump's one-on-one with Vladimir Putin. Here's what he had to say after the meeting.
You should be willing to play a more direct and a more substantial way in funding this war yourself. I think the president, and I certainly think that America, we're done with the funding of the Ukraine war business. We want to bring about a peaceful settlement to this thing. We want to stop the killing. But Americans, I think, are sick of continuing to send their money, their tax dollars to this particular conflict. But if the Europeans want to step up and actually buy the weapons from American producers, we're okay with that, but we're not going to fund it ourselves anymore.
Now, it comes after 7 major European leaders issued a joint statement ahead of the summit saying the path to peace in Ukraine cannot be decided without Ukraine. Joining me now for more on this is President of the Centre of the American Experiment, John Hinderaker. John, thank you so much for joining me. Look, the US has made it very, very clear it is done with helping to fund Ukraine. Europe, though, is expressing concern already. They want ironclad security assurances. Will they get it? How do you see this playing out?
Well, first of all, the Trump administration has been clear all along that Russia is fundamentally a European problem, and the Europeans should be taking the lead in responding to and deterring Russian aggression. Donald Trump's position is really very simple. This war has been going on for 3.5 years. There have been over 1 million casualties. The Europeans are always cheering on the Ukrainians and saying, go to it, keep the war going. And Trump really would like to bring peace to that region. And whether he's going to be able to do that, I don't know. I think it depends on whether Ukraine, at the end of the day, is willing to make some concessions so that Russia isn't just walking away empty-handed after all of these years.
Oh, so you think that Ukraine is going to have to make some concessions? I mean, the other thing is can we really trust Russia as well?
Well, of course we can't trust Russia, Danica. Nobody trusts Russia, but nevertheless, they are war weary. They have got to want this thing to come to an end, but they have to get something. Some years ago, Russia marched in and seized Crimea, and they've held on to Crimea. Nobody's talking about Russia giving Crimea back. And I think the path to peace here probably lies in a ceasefire line and ultimately a line basically corresponding to where the armies are, which is what usually happens. And that means that Russia would gain a little bit of Russian-speaking territory there in eastern Ukraine. If Ukraine is not willing to agree to that, it's very hard to see how this war ends.
No, absolutely. Look, I think the world's going to be watching with bated breath to see what happens here because it's been certainly a very long war. Now, meanwhile, Donald Trump has hosted the leaders of sworn enemies, Armenia and Azerbaijan, 2 former Soviet states, of course, for an official peace signing ceremony at the White House. I've got to say it was quite an extraordinary sight seeing these 2 countries after all these years come together. John, there's speculation that this is all part of a push for Donald Trump to get that Nobel Peace Prize. He's pulled this summit off. If he then pulls off Russia and Ukraine, should he get it?
Well, if he does that, he should get it. Whether he will is another matter, of course. But this conflict between Armenia and Azerbaijan goes back to the 1980s, and it seems as if the Trump administration has come up with a creative solution. We'll see if it works, but it's focused on a transportation corridor that would be shared by these 2 countries. It would be a new trade route between Asia and Europe, and it could result in tens of billions of dollars in economic development for both of these countries. And it also could result in American influence in that region, replacing Russian and Iranian influence. So it's got the potential to be a win-win all the way around, and we'll have to see how it develops.
Yeah, look, absolutely. I mean, as you said, I feel like if he does Russia and Ukraine, surely you've got to give this man the Nobel Peace Prize. He's done one. Let's see what else he can do. Now, this is quite fascinating. Donald Trump has vowed to immediately force all homeless people out of Washington, D.C. to an undisclosed place far away. He's taken to Truth Social, posting, quote, "I'm going to make our capital safer and more beautiful than it ever was before. We want our capital back." Look, John, I'm very curious to know how he plans to do this. He's also spoken not just of the homeless, but also of criminals. I mean, he's spoken about criminals for many, many months now. But will it be easier said than done, in your view, to actually move the homeless out of Washington, D.C.?
Danica, it can be done. Washington, D.C. has been a disgrace for a long time. It's got the 4th highest murder rate of any American city. There are thousands of homeless people. If you go around American cities, there are some where you're stepping over homeless people on the street. There are others where there are no homeless people in sight. We don't have to have this plague all over our urban areas. And that's a matter of local law enforcement. So Trump is going to do a press conference tomorrow. He'll announce more specific plans. The mayor of D.C., Muriel Bowser, says she's going to cooperate in Trump's efforts here. So I'm hopeful that he's going to be able to clean up Washington, D.C. and make it a capital that the American people can be proud of.
Yeah, look, fair enough, and good on him for trying to do something about it. We'll be watching that closely. Now, Bernie Sanders has slammed former Vice President Kamala Harris's 2024 presidential campaign, accusing it of being heavily influenced by wealthy people. Gee, who would have thought? Here's what he had to say.
One of the reasons, in my view, that Kamala Harris lost this election is she had too many billionaires telling her not to speak up for the working class of this country.
Well, no, I don't think that's, I like Kamala, she's a friend of mine, but she was, her core consultants, were heavily influenced by very wealthy people.
John, I think Bernie Sanders is absolutely spot on. She had all these wealthy mouthpieces. Remember the actors like George Clooney, singer Beyonce. None of these people represented middle America.
Well, here's the problem, Danica. The Democrats are the party of the wealthy. It's not just Kamala Harris. And by the way, Bernie Sanders himself is wealthy. the best demographic the voters have, that the Democrats have in terms of voting, is people with incomes over $200,000 a year. They're always denouncing billionaires, but the reality is that most billionaires who are at all active in politics are on the side of the Democrats. It is the Republicans who are now the party of the working class. The Republicans have figured that out and they're proud of it. But the Democrats really haven't yet come to grips with it, and they don't really have a good way to talk about it.
No, clearly, but you're right about Bernie Sanders, but for once I actually agree with him. He's not wrong, I feel like, what he just said. Now, look, the Global Government Surplus Auction House, this was commissioned by the Biden administration to sell $350 million in unused components of Donald Trump's border wall. It's now claiming that it plans to coordinate with Trump to return some of those materials back to the federal government. John, make sense of this for us. How do you think this would work, and is it a good thing?
Well, what's going on here, Danica, is that Trump was building this border wall between the U.S. and Mexico, and when Joe Biden came in 2021, one of the first things he did was to stop construction of the wall. And at that time, the federal government had bought something in the vicinity of $300 million worth of materials that had not yet been installed, that were awaiting construction. And those materials started getting auctioned off at pennies on the dollar. It was kind of a scandal. So Trump is now trying to get those materials back. And this big auction house has said that they are going to sell the materials back to the federal government at cost. And so that's better than what was happening before. But I think the significant thing is that construction on that border wall is once again underway.
Yeah, absolutely. It's about time. I mean, it was obviously a key election promise, so no doubt I'm sure Trump would want to get that back up and running. Now, JD Vance, he's been overseas saying that he does not want the UK to go down what he calls the very dark path to losing free speech. Here he was speaking at a meeting with Britain's Foreign Secretary.
Well, I'd say I've raised concerns about free speech in the United States of America. I think the entire collective West, the transatlantic relationship, our NATO allies, certainly the United States under the Biden administration, got a little too comfortable with censoring rather than engaging with a diverse array of opinions.
John, is he right?
Well, he is right, Danica. He's being kind of diplomatic there, honestly. He's talked about this before. The reality is that the United Kingdom and a number of other European countries embarked on immigration policies that turned out to be disastrous, and people don't like them. And in the UK in particular, instead of facing up to the fact that these policies have failed and trying to do something about it, the government instead is trying to suppress criticism from people who don't like what's happened. And so in the UK, now you can have your doorbell rung and it's a couple of police officers who don't like something that you tweeted. And we've had a number of people in the UK actually imprisoned for saying things that clearly would be constitutionally protected speech. here in the United States. And so there is a real issue of free speech. I think it's true across a good part of Europe, and it certainly is true in the United Kingdom.
Yeah, I think the UK is absolutely stuffed right now. Before I let you go, John, I want to ask you, I mean, we've had JD Vance basically telling the UK off in front of the Foreign Secretary over there. A couple of weeks ago, Donald Trump was in the UK saying pretty much the exact same thing to the UK Prime Minister. What do you make of this technique the White House is using, going to these countries and just telling it like it is?
Well, Donald Trump says what he thinks. You don't have to sit there and speculate about what Donald Trump thinks about something. He'll tell you. And to be honest, Danica, I think these are conversations we need to have. I think that the Europeans needed to be told that they should step up and play their part in NATO. They needed to contribute, and they weren't doing it. They now agree with that. And I think that similarly, it's a good thing for Trump and Vance to say, look, we in the West have for hundreds of years been committed to free speech. It's really the foundation of democracy, and we're seeing it start to slip away. I think it's good that they are pointing these things out.
I completely agree. It's good that they're saying it like it is, and gee, it makes for some good television as well, I've got to say. John Hinderaker, nice to chat with you. Thanks very much for joining us on the show this evening.